Hi, I'm Kyle,
I'm John.
and today on JM2 Digital Talk, we're going to talk about a topic that you think you might know about, but there's enough differences here that it's definitely worth discussing, and that is, in fact, mobile web design, which is different than normal browser-based web design. Am I correct?
Absolutely, it is.
Cool. And I know there's a few differences here and there, but one of the things that kind of always gets me hung up a little bit, because it seems like they're so interchangeable, the difference between adaptive web design, or AWD, and responsive web design, RWD. And I know these two terms are kind of just tossed around, and I think sometimes they may be kind of confused or interchanged. So, what do you know about the differences between the two?
Well, adaptive web design is where the web server actually determines if it's a desktop, tablet, or mobile device.
And it automatically determines that? Or?
It will automatically determine the type of device,
Okay.
and it'll give you a specific page based on the type of device.
Right.
So rather than creating a single page that works across all devices,
Right.
you get 3, 4, 5, 6 different custom built sites. So technically, you have multiple websites for the same website.
And I think that's interesting too because, sometimes I'll come across a website where I'll look at it on a browser. It looks just fine. And you bring it up on your phone or your tablet, and it's pretty much the same website, but everything is either scrunched or it's shrunk down, and you have to kind of pinch and zoom in order to kind of visit things, and it's a little awkward to handle. Is that an example of what you're talking about? Or
No, that's an example of no web design.
Got it.
It's basically where they design it for desktop and desktop only.
Got it. So which one is that, and what's the difference between the two for responsive and adaptive?
Well, adaptive, like I said, is you have the server determines if you're a mobile device.
Mhm.
It gives you a website designed specifically for a mobile device.
Right.
If you have responsive web design, what it is you build one website, and as the screen size gets smaller or larger,
Right.
it will adapt automatically, which is where the confusion is because it adapts to the screen size of the user. So if you have if you have a responsive web design site, you have the desktop, tablet, and mobile site all in one. Where if you have an adaptive, the easiest way to determine if it's an adaptive, if you go to the bottom and in the footer it says click here to view the desktop version.
Right.
9 times out of 10, that's going to be an adaptive website.
So one thing that I'm still kind of a bit confused about, and I've noticed that we mentioned at the beginning of the video where the confusion comes in, is there any particular one that a website should use? Like, should they use RWD? Should they use AWD? Which one is more preferred for websites?
Well, for websites, RWD or responsive web design is the preferred because
Okay.
you have Twitter Bootstrap, you have Zurb Foundation,
Right.
you have Grid 960, which will automatically format the screen size for you.
Right.
Modern web browsers do it.
Uh-huh.
And with adaptive web design, you actually have to create multiple versions of your website, which just ultimately increases the overall cost of a website.
It's really interesting too. Before I used to think, is a website, they say, is it mobile friendly? Does it look good on mobile? And before, I always used to have that thought that, I need to pull up my phone, visit it online. But that's actually not true. You could just take the browser, and just shrink it and expand it. And if it fits in with the space that you're making it, then it just kind of shows whether it's adaptive and whether it fits in or not.
Well, that shows you if it's a responsive web design site.
Right.
If it doesn't and it scrolls left and right, it's possible it's an adaptive web design.
Right. So there are ways to tell even without a mobile device, which I think is pretty interesting as well. And I kind of think this goes towards our next topic, actually. Two more, almost interchangeable things. UI and UX. And I know UI is more user interactive. Is that what it's for?
It's user interface.
Interface,
Is
okay.
UI, and UX is user experience.
Right. And again, are those two separate things, or are they just two things that do a similar job? They seem, again, two things getting confused.
They are often very confused.
Mhm.
UI is the user interface that you actually look at.
Right.
The look and the feel, the pretties.
Mhm.
The user experience is how the overall design and layout actually work.
Right.
Is a button on the left side versus the right side? Is it red versus green?
Right.
that is the user experience of how somebody is going to actually interact and use the site, where the user interface is pretty much the colors and the prettiness.
Right. You know, I think a really interesting example of that, and if we're going to name a big name for the experience, is Amazon. Like, for the most part, I think we can all agree it hasn't largely changed how it looked since it first started. But, and I know I talked about this with a few people, there's a reason behind that. There's a strategy behind that. People like the simplicity behind Amazon. They like the ability to just quickly browse and to get in and get out. And I think Google's another example, right?
Google is a perfect example. They have not changed their overall design, other than they do change up their logo on a daily basis. The overall site, it's a white background, their logo in a search box.
And it's probably never going to change like anytime soon because people are so familiar with it and it works, right?
They've looked at adding ads on the page and everything else, but they said no, it doesn't work.
That's really interesting. And I just think it's really interesting in general. There is a difference in each area, whether you're working on a website or a browser or a website for mobile. You know, there's enough of a difference and something that you have to be aware of. But it makes it interesting as well because it all contributes in the end to how people view it, how they click on it, and how they visit it as well.
And you want to make sure it works well and it provides that good user experience, because if you give a good user experience, people are going to come back and they're going to want to purchase from you your products and services.
Right, and ultimately, I think that's what everyone wants in the end.
That's the end game.
So we talked a lot about mobile today and shared a lot of information, but it was really fun to talk about. And I think that's about all for this week.
I think that's enough.
Right. So again, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. I'm Kyle.
I'm John.
And we're looking forward to talking to you again. See ya.